So first of all, welcome to everyone who's showing up live here. The best part about these calls is not only do we get to learn from Eric and other speakers around a particular topic to do with business, to do with growth, to do with marketing, whatever you guys are interested in. The best component of this is that you're gonna be able to add Eric to your network. Now, I'm not sure if you guys know who Eric is. We'll give him an opportunity in a minute to explain his journey, why he's here, where his expertise lies. But I'm sure you can see if you're looking to grow your business network, Eric is the one who's doing this professionally and is able to help businesses grow their business network. So do you think he's going to have a rich network himself, right? He's one of the most well-networked person I've ever met because this is what he does. And so adding him to your network and in your social circles, in your community is going to be immensely beneficial for you. So not only do we jump on these calls to learn and to take notes and to just really be there in terms of, developing our business acumen, but also to add these speakers to your network so that you can have that platform of growth. And one of the ways we do that is that we add him to our network and we ask him who is it that we can send his way that would be an ideal client or a key source of collaboration. Now, a lot of people in the Facebook group know this is exactly what we do. We join, we connect with other members, and we ask them that question of who we can send their way from our network. And when you do that, you add instant value and you start to grow because you're having this tight-knit community that lasts long term. Now, where did I get that question of who can I send your way that would be an ideal client or a key source of collaboration is in the social networks of Eric Chan and Anthony Gaddy. I got that question from them and I stole it and made it my own so that many people can benefit. I've done this over the last 12 months is growing my network by asking people that question. So first of all, people in the chat, as we've said before, if you're going to chat to us, make sure you have the option of typing just to the panelists, or you can say, type it to all panelists and attendees. So that is an option for you guys. If you want to jump on and talk to us and the community in here, that would be very, very cool. Anything else? I think that's a good old summary of what the group's all about, why you're here. Everyone's got a pen and paper ready to learn the keys and the insights in terms of how we can infiltrate the social circles of the really successful and start to organize some really, really cool key collaborations. So Eric, I'd love to kick it off to you and start this conversation of you just explaining why it is you're here, your expertise, your business journey up until now, and how it is you've been able to build such a high value network.
Thank you, Tyson. Thank you for having me on this webinar call. And I'm loving some of the comments in the chat from Tim Hine. Nothing wrong with a bit of R&D, rip off and duplicate, which I think is freaking awesome. But I think you are exactly the perfect example of someone who implements just one simple change, right? Asking one additional high value question. Who can I introduce to you and how can I help? And you do that with such authenticity, like people get that from you. And that combination is just amazing. And look how far you've come from the first day I met you to having this amazing community of over 800 individuals. I really got to hand it to you, man. You've really been an implementer and you have shown what possibilities can be created by purely just putting something into practice as opposed to leaving it in the note paper. One of the things that I found when I listen to webinars and even talks, a lot of the ideas, the core principles seem very simple. Now, they're not easy, but they're very simple in their design. And sometimes people dismiss these principles or implementation guidance just because of its simplicity. Yet when people do actually implement it, a result like yours is almost inevitable. So yeah, thank you for that intro. And I'm really happy that you encourage all your community members to take action in this way.
Awesome. And R&D for everyone. If anyone wants to,
yeah,
I've been encouraging everyone to rip off my stuff and use it for their own. Then definitely do that. If it's for the good of the world, go ahead.
Yeah, that's right. So we're here today to talk about how to improve your network, how to raise the caliber of your network, how to create more opportunities with the right people. And this particular topic is really important to me because my business journey from where I started all the way in medical research, nothing to do with business at all, to where I am now, the journey has been purely because of the people that I've met and the effort that I put in on focusing on building these relationships, really giving it priority focus. And I wanted to share some of the things that I've learned along the way, some of the changes that I made to my life, some of the key epiphanies and defining moments that as soon as I had those realizations and I made the change, everything started to accelerate. And I guess one of the defining pieces was in a space of 1 year. In fact, it was really just 6 months. I went from a network of just other micro startup businesses all the way to high-level CEOs, non-executive directors in that small space, and done all through authenticity, done through all just action that I took. And I think that it's something that can be replicated by anybody. So just to give you the quick cliff notes of my journey, as I said, I started off in medical research and I got into business because my research position required me to speak to a lot of people with dementia. I was dealing with people 70 and over, and they come into our research project wanting to contribute to the greater good, like all people do in research. But after doing some testing, we advise them that they might be suffering Alzheimer's disease and they need to come back for further testing. And because those conversations were so difficult, I went and got some training in coaching, NLP, sales, everything to do with communication. I tried to adopt those skills so that I could better facilitate the conversations with the families to avoid them pulling their loved ones out of the research project. Anyone who knows research, retaining the participants is the most important thing. So because I worked in that job for an additional 2 years and I saw about 35 people on average a week, I practiced those coaching and communication skills every weekday for 2 years. So I built up this really good skill base and put my coaching into practice in live situations. That shifted me away from coaching and into speaking because my mentor said I should do one-to-many. And I discovered the love and joy of speaking, and speaking will be a key part of my story and one of the key skills that I'd like everybody to think about on another level is that I went to Toastmasters. That's right, Toastmasters. I don't know if anybody here has also been to Toastmasters, but when you go to Toastmasters, the first speech that they ask you to do is the icebreaker, sharing a bit about yourself. Now, I didn't know how you're meant to approach that, so I went home and I did a whole bunch of preparation and just really designed my entire talk. And when I delivered my first talk, the people in the room gave me feedback that they thought I was a professional speaker. So that gave me that moment, of destiny where I felt that light shining down from the heavens, like, oh, I think I found something that I have a superpower in. And from that point onwards, I invested in public speaking training, competitive public speaking, just so many different courses and learning and testing myself to the point where I became quite proficient at speaking. And this leads me to wanting to get into business, at first doing a similar thing to you, wanting to do a life coaching business. And I did that for a couple of months. But then I wanted to grow my business and people told me about networking, right? And you imagine someone who's in the normal, what I call the civilian world, right? Outside of business owners and entrepreneurs, they don't really understand networking or they have never heard of it before. So I decided to go to networking, and one of the first networking meetings I went to was the Business Marketplace, which is where I met Emma Sydney, one of our fellow community members. And when I went up there to listen to what everyone was pitching, because the way that the Business Marketplace works is we're all sitting in a giant circle, or 60, 80, 100 of us, and each person gets to stand up, get the microphone, and stand right in the middle, the center of the entire massive circle, and they got to pitch what they do for 60 seconds. And one of the things that I noticed was, number one, I was really nervous about doing it. But number two, I also found that a lot of other people were quite nervous about doing it. And later I found out a lot of people who have actually been in the business game for many years still find that speaking quite daunting. So I went up there and I did my pitch, and I seemed to have really attracted the attention of people based on my ability to speak. And because I had this really good ability to speak, and I come from a science world, and I understand my background's in psychology, and I really did a lot of research in messaging and all that when I was learning how to speak, I developed a business around pitching. First elevator pitches, so 60-second pitches. So talk about opportunistic in this particular networking meeting where people stand up to speak for 60 seconds. I solved exactly that. I went and solved that particular problem. So that's how I first integrated myself into this networking group, which, I became quite prolific. In fact, I actually won the most prolific member award from the business marketplace that year because of this particular skill. And I guess this leads to the first little nugget that I wanted to share with everybody regarding how to build up your network and raise the caliber of your network, is that you should make sure that you get really good at articulating yourself. And I know that business owners, especially speakers and coaches, do in some way are inclined with this ability, that they really have this ability to speak and do not feel nervous about speaking. But there is a difference between knowing how to speak well and being able to tell stories well, being able to listen well, which is a huge part of communication and conversation, and to really put in the time and the effort and the learning. And I would say to always be reading a new book on communication, because I did that every single rotation of books for the first 2 years. I went from pitching books to body language books to tonality books, and just kept refining my ability to speak, because I found that through this vehicle of speaking, you actually find some of the internal challenges and the hurdles that you have to go through. So the larger the context, the more fear you feel, the stranger the environment, the more authenticity you have to tap into. And if you actually work on this particular skill, you'll find personal growth. And as you find more personal growth, you'll find your ability to connect with high level individuals much quicker. So that's one of the main things. A lot of people will say, like Kerry here says, I'm not a storyteller. I notice I say too much. Well, the funny thing is, Kerry, a lot of people come to me when they engage with me for speakers training and courses, and they say to me, I just can't do it. I'm not a storyteller. I'm an introvert. I don't know if I can do this. I can't move my body in the same way as you. I'm just not that way inclined. And the funny thing is, with all those individuals, as they spend the day with me and we get to know each other, and I'll ask them questions like, I know if there's any Game of Thrones fans here. It's like, who's your favorite character? Which house do you despise the most? All of a sudden, they all have amazing communication, right? They speak with passion, and their hands and move and everything, and not an comes out of their mouth. And sometimes it has, I personally believe, this is purely my opinion, that it really has to be about tapping into the right message, really delving into the personal growth around the blockages you have when you're in front of other people. And when you are able to pass that particular hurdle, you'll find that the message flows through you, just like when you come back from a holiday and you've told your holiday story by the 10th time, you're quite good at sharing exactly your experience. So, and also, and the imperfections, I would say, this is just a bit of a side note, make the presentation, I would say, a little bit more authentic. Now, if you're all the time where it disrupts the flow, that's no good. Of course, there's a line that we can't cross. But I find people who sometimes use incorrect grammar, so there's a bit of a pattern where you can tell it's their personality, or they're stopping and pausing and looking away. All these little idiosyncrasies actually make the speaker and connect you with the people on a much deeper level.
I think that's one of the biggest things, because when we're thinking about growing your network, if you're reaching out to someone online, if you're reaching out to people in a networking event, if you're looking to connect with someone who is, just for a coffee or a catch up, you want to, it's really key to recognize if you're catching up with a friend just over coffee or over breakfast, you're never worried about what you're going to say, how you're going to say it. Everything just flows out of you because we're natural storytellers. That's why telling a story is so powerful, because we are natural storytellers, and that's how we interpret information in a really, really key way. So what I found is that if you can tap into the side of you and the emotional state of just being with a friend and just sharing something, then the content just comes out of you, right? So I think a lot of people can, get up there and they obviously worry about the judgment of other people, or when they start growing their network, they worry, oh, well, what if I don't have a lot to offer? Or what if I don't know how to do this? Or what if they ask me a question I don't know, I'm going to look silly, right? All those are points for you to just be genuine and authentic. And if you can do that from a place of just wanting to add value and wanting to get to know people, that's going to be really, really key. So I would highly encourage anyone who's wanting to be more articulate, who's wanting to share something a bit more about themselves, so they can communicate with other people and grow their network, whether it be in business or elsewhere. Take those opportunities to just be authentic and just run with the parts of you that can mess up and can not do it right. I think that's all part of the journey. And from what Eric just mentioned about me, is my authenticity. I get messages all the time of people just saying, man, thanks for being real, authentic, raw. And that's what people love. That's what people really connect with. If you are perfect, you may think in your mind you did well, but other people won't be able to relate to you, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's really key. And so would you be able to, if you say one of the tips is to be more articulate, do you think you could give us a couple of ways in which you have learned through your books in maybe some key three or four tips that we could take away that would be able to allow us to be more articulate?
Yeah, absolutely. I love the comments that you made, especially on authenticity. Now, is it too early to introduce a bit of tension into this conversation, right? Because
Tension it up.
Because look, I'm a very pragmatic person, and I've been on the personal growth journey for a long time, still learning, just came out of a really dark place and all that. So by no means feel like I've learned it all. But I will say one thing. I do have a bit of a gripe with the discussion of authenticity, because even though at a universal and fundamental level, everything we talk about authenticity is true, I find that a lot of people, myself included, almost on a regular basis, hide behind a screen of authenticity and get really well at talking about the definitions of authenticity, but they avoid the darker places of themselves, and they don't integrate the shadow of themselves into their authenticity, which produces some of the unfavorable results. So what do I mean by that in the context of what we're talking about? When it comes to building your network, wanting to get, for example, closer to people who are sitting on further along in the journey, right? Further along, maybe they're part of a bigger business, they're a high-level CEO, and you want to become part of the network because you fundamentally know that you have value to offer. And I think everyone has value to offer, and that no one is better than another person. But I find, as I coach people, and even in my own journey and people approaching me, that people approach me using the words and tell me the stories of their authentic self. But I can smell, like seriously, read and smell the energy where what they want to do with me is actually sell to me or gain something from me. And that is actually on the forefront, but because they're denying it, this incongruence gives off this, maybe it's unconscious for them, right? This energy about them. Now, everyone in business wants to sell, do a deal, or improve their lot in life. Everyone will come into it looking for an opportunity to create win-win, right? It's not lose-win where you lose and they win. It's win-win or win-win-win, win for you, win for them, win for the greater good, right? But the people who do it really well are the ones who actually accept that this is part of it and that they're looking to provide opportunity for themselves and the people in their own community, but come to it with that truth so that they're not coming to me with this energy of, hey, let's build a relationship. I want to know more about you. I want to share with you. But then deep down, all they want to really do is just sell to me. And I'm trying to share with people in this conversation that there is something that a lot of people who do operate like that do not realize that they give off that energy, even if it's subtle. And to the people who are more experienced, the higher you go, the people who are more successful and have been in the game for a really long time and met a lot of people who are trying to either be their friends, but what they really want to do is leverage them in some way, shape or form, you get better and better at reading that. So you got to really make sure that you don't deny that aspect of yourself, that yes, I'm trying to look for opportunity to progress my lot in life, the people around me, the people that I support, my family. There is nothing wrong with that. But as soon as you deny that aspect of yourself and you approach business with the same mindset as, say, when you're walking the personal growth journey. Now, they're definitely interconnected, but it's more for me like a Venn diagram where there's an intersection, but they have the individualism as well. You need to understand where they interact. But as soon as you try to be naive about it, that is the first thing that will sink you, because you don't realize that your body language, your energy, your tonality, all of it sort of melts together with your unconscious desire. And that's what you give out. And those who are more experienced can read it better than anyone else. So that is a key thing.
So what I would ask you, because a lot of people on here are growing their business, they're looking to obviously grow their network and really infiltrate the circles of the highly successful, whether that be on LinkedIn, whether that be on Facebook, whether that be in person at events, whatever it may be. Let me ask you, Eric, what do you focus on when you meet someone for the first time that would be a really good contact, a really good networking opportunity? What is it that you focus on so that you have the energy of collaborating and building a relationship and one of generosity, but also where you're not denying the fact that you're also looking to grow yourself as well? What is it that you focus on? What is it that you approach that situation with?
Yeah, so when it comes to this communication and what I focus on in a networking situation where it's somebody that I want to connect with, my one's a bit of a combination of everything, and it comes to fruition in the word calibrate. What I do is I try to calibrate what I need to be in order to serve the person in front of me. Now, what do I mean by that? What I mean by that is, normally in communication, especially networking, people will tell you that you should listen, right? Listen first, ask the question first, and allow people to talk about themselves. And for most people, I would say 80, 90%, that really is the case. But what I've come to encounter, especially with individuals who are more successful, as some of them become a little bit more closed off, right? A little bit more reserved for whatever reason it is. But I have noticed that's a little bit of a pattern for some individuals, is that they actually need people to lead the conversation because they're not talkers, right? And as you become more successful, you also find that you become more clear in the many ways about who you are. And that's why people like you and I know, for example, Tuo, right? From Blue Ways down at Waterman. So Tyson and I have met at Waterman's at Chadston, and we've met, other people in our community group there. And there's this gentleman named Tuo, and he's a billionaire, right? He owns $1 billion company, and he comes in shorts, in sandals, in a ratty t-shirt, in a plasticky jacket, because he just doesn't care. He just doesn't care. He's the sort of person who knows that he doesn't like small talk, and he's happy to listen, but he doesn't want to say much. So when I engage with him, I realize that I need to talk more. So number one is, learn to calibrate and actually think about, how do I serve this person properly? And sometimes serving them is not necessarily just adhering to the, rules of communication where it's like you need to listen first. Sometimes it's a bit of give and take. That's number one. So calibrate to know how to serve. And then number two, what I try to do is I just try to understand exactly where I'm at and what stories I want to share about myself. at what time, and I just commit to them. I really do. I just commit to them, because throughout your journey, like at the beginning of my journey, I shared a lot about my past life, you know, whether it be university and all that. And as I grew, I moved out of that and I focused on different areas that are happening to me right now. So I tend to bring the version of myself that is the truest version of myself in that moment. And here's the key thing here: I hide nothing from anybody. If I'm going through a hard time, I share that I'm going through a hard time, even with the person I just met. Now, obviously, I don't go 10 layers deep, right? But I make sure that, hey, if someone asks me how am I doing, and I think about it, I actually share that I'm not doing so well. Because if I don't do that, then in business, there is another version of small talk. There is another version of small talk. And it's not, hey, how are you? How was your weekend? What were the sports scores? Which might be in the regular world. But for us, is how your business is doing. You know, what are you doing right now? How are the clients and all that? And if you want to build a deeper relationship, that conversation only really lasts for so long. But if you try to connect with the other person on a human level, which is, you know, the key to everything that we do here in this particular community group, your community group, it holds true no matter the context. And I want to quickly share with you why this is in particular so important, right? About sharing where you're at any time. I recently finished up my partnership in Green Ants, right? And if it wasn't for the fact that when I met with people and I opened myself up and shared all the aspects of where I was at, I would not have received the opportunity that I have now. Because it was in sharing the deepest why of where I'm at and what I'm trying to achieve. And sometimes the why is not that big grand why of, you know, I want to contribute to the world. Sometimes the why is, right now I'm in a ditch and I need to dig myself out of this fucking ditch because I'm in so much pain and I just need something, a win. People want to give that to you. And when they are able to give that to you, when they get a better sense of you, then you start connecting on a human level. But what happens with most people going into networking, especially when they start talking to somebody who's of extreme high caliber, they start viewing each other like this, right? In fact, this was the first bit of advice Anthony gave me, and also Zamil, who is his friend that I met almost at the same time, who both became my mentors. He's like, Eric, you know, you talk to me and use language, and your body language denotes that I'm up here and you're down here. And I thought to myself, wow, I didn't even know what I'm doing, that I was doing that. And what we're doing is that we're unconsciously teaching the other person what frame of reference to put us through. And what we're doing on them is we're projecting on them that my value of myself and of what I deem as success that allows me to sit on a different peer standard to different individuals is based on money and outward success. That's what it really means. Because it's like, if I talk to people who are in my same networking group, I talk to them really freely. As soon as I meet a CEO of a $15 billion company, I start talking to them and deferring to them. Now, on a human level, who here would agree that on a human level, we are equal? What is it on a human level that separates us? No, but what I'm doing is projecting onto that person, her or him, that, hey, I'm actually viewing you and wrapping you around this context that you're better than me, or I'm making you better than me. It's not that you're better than me, I'm making you better than me, because I define success as either the monetary figure in my bank or the size of my company. It was a huge thing for me, where I had to really accept that that's what I was doing, right? And then when I shifted away from that, and this is the important point, when I shifted away from that and started living a life that was actually worth a story, right? And this is actually one of the additional key takeaways that I want people to write down, is that if you want to network with better people or improve in your business and tell great stories, live a life that's worth a story. Because as soon as I started living a life that was worth the story, one of the biggest hangups I had as a speaker's coach was, how am I going to compete with the other speaker trainers, the ones that's part of Professional Speakers Association already at diamond and platinum level? How do I compete with, Brian Tracy's course and all this other stuff, right? How am I going to compete against these people? And I thought to myself, the only way that I compete is on a human level. What can I do that even they're not doing, right?
Mm.
And on a human level, what I did, for example, was I took a milk crate out into the middle of the city, stood on it, and started speaking ad hoc, just about anything. And I just kept challenging myself in that way. And then when it came to meeting these people who I viewed as high level, successful CEOs and all that sort of stuff, and they asked me about who I am, yes, number one, I have to articulate very well what I do for my business so they actually know how to help me. But number two, I shared with them the story of my journey and how I did things that were worth a story. They were like, whoa, I can't believe you did that. I did that with a CEO that owned like a $50 million company. And they were like, oh my God, you went outside and you stood on a milk crate and you spoke to people. My hands would have been shaking. And it's just like, oh, damn, there are things that I do. There are superpowers that each of us have that other people would not even be able to touch. Will not be able to touch. We have experiences to share that other people will not even be able to fathom. And when you give them the gift of being able to articulate that story and connect with them on that level, then all of a sudden it becomes peer, because the only frame of reference is growth and contribution. Wow. That becomes a frame of reference.
Man, that's something that I resonate with. There's a few things here that people can write down if they missed it. Just to remember is that frame of reference, right? Is that when you're meeting people of high caliber, do you see them as high caliber so you see yourself as less, or do you see yourself as equals, right? And one of the ways in which you can do that, one of the ways in which you can add more value, or at least see yourself as equals, as the truth of what you are, is by living a life that's worth a story. I mean, I coach a lot of online business owners who really just want to grow their engagement on Facebook, grow their own communities, and have that, have that constant stream of referrals and clients and those sort of things. One thing I highly encourage everyone is what my coach taught me, and that is to be a role model. I've now started calling it being a relentless role model. And that is being able to live a life where you're consistently growing, like you mentioned, but when you're consistently growing, share that and share the vulnerability pieces. Right now, I'm meditating 2 hours a day, and I'm doing that by the main focus is going in deep and uncovering all the fears, all the doubts, all the frustrations in my journey that I've been pushing unconsciously, so that I can feel and release and face all of them. And this type of journey has allowed me to just be super vulnerable, super honest, and also be more connected with myself. And when that happens, I now have so much more to share, and I'm being a role model for a lot of people. One thing that came up in my meditations was exactly what you talked about. When I was going to these networking events, a lot of the networking events I go to, or business events, Eric is a speaker there. He's the MC, and he, helps run the event. And I felt at times I was feeling insignificant, because I was just about the youngest person in the room by a long shot. But the vast majority of people have been in business 20, 25 years. And here I am, I'm 30 years old. Been in business for 3.5, 4 years. And I felt myself feeling insignificant, felt myself talking to people and talking them up, or, showing them that they have more value than me. And it's only since I worked through those internal conflicts that I started realizing exactly what Eric said. And we are all equal, right? What we are at the core is we are just heart and lungs. That's what we are. We are all human. We're all on our journey. And the moment I started realizing that is the moment I started actually adding more value, right? Because when you're actually able to add more value, no matter where you're at, and you see yourself as equal, they can feel that. And therefore they want to know more about you. They want to ask more about your story. And I've got on many, many phone calls with people who are 20, 25 years in business. And they said, man, that was the most powerful conversation I've ever had, right? When we talk about mindset, we talk about shifting internal conflicts. When I can I can sense in them what's holding them back emotionally or psychologically, and I'm able to help them through that. This is all through me being a relentless role model, right? Me doing my own work, me sharing my own story. And then when I go and meet people, is feeling like I have so much value to give. And everyone here has value to give because you all have a story, you all have a journey, you all have a network that you can also share, right? And so that is super key. And you can see how much passion Eric speaks with because he's been here and done that. And he shares it with so much congruency because this is where he comes from. And just to give people a bit of an idea on your shift, Eric. So for those who don't know about Green Ant and those who don't know about Eric's journey, he was the GM of Green Ant, who basically help businesses grow their business network, right? Grow their business community. So that's why he's so well networked. But now Eric's starting to go on his own journey. And so opening up about that, and opening up about his experiences, and opening up about where he's, how he's feeling is now part of his journey. It's something that he wants to share. So something that you guys can take away by hearing this is just having in mind, what are the aspects of your life that you want to share? What are the aspects of your life that you want to really start to, just communicate to people in an authentic way that allows them to get to know you, right? Is there anything you want to add, Eric, that I missed out?
Yeah, you made amazing points about living your journey, and people have put in the comments about really representing what they stand for to their tribe and being congruent there. One of the key distinctions for me in that aspect is that, remember, my friends, we are all equal. So if we are all equal, that's not actually what makes us special, right? Because I treat it as that should be a no-brainer. We should be well past those days where we need to be discussing whether or not we're equal. That should be a given, right? We're an equal. But one thing people mistake is equality with symmetry. Equality with symmetry. And the thing is that we're not symmetrical. And it's actually in that space of not being symmetrical is where the power really is, because that's where it's a blend of where we can relate, where we are very much alike, but also living the journey and creating experiences that allow us to share and create these stories that really engage people. So my small challenge to everybody in this group is stop answering the question of how you've been with just good, fine, and great. Okay, if I took that away from you, what would you say? Right? And I imagine that you'd have to actually share whether you're not being fine and give a little bit of depth and open yourself up, accordingly. You can calibrate it, of course, right, to the person in front of you. But if you are doing fine and great, why are you doing fine and great? I'm actually so bamboozled at sometimes that, man, this person telling me how great they are, but they don't really tell me why they're doing so great, right? And I have to ask them why they're doing so great. And imagine what opportunities you open up when you give people the space and the gift of showing your lack of symmetry.
Wow.
just an interesting thought for me.
I love that. It's all equal, but not symmetrical. We all have our unique ways, and I think that's something I can take on as well. When people ask how I am, my default is to say, yeah, I'm good. And I think if I can dig deeper on the answer and dig deeper on the type of question that they ask, then I can open up the conversation to a completely new level. I think that's something I'm definitely going to take on and use more often. In terms of people here, so we've learned some skills. We've got some key tips, tools, tactics on what to do when you meet someone, how you can start building that connection, how you can be more congruent and authentic within yourself, and how you can start to really see yourself as valuable. I thought I'd ask something that's going to have a lot of people get some value from. That's where we find these people. How do we get into the social circles of the highly successful, or start to build a network that is where we can use these skills? And I know a lot of people doing that in the Facebook group at the moment, which those who aren't in it is the Facebook group of Connect, Collaborate, and Contribute, or Connect, Contribute, Collaborate. And we're basically connecting with each other in order to ask that question of who we can send each other's way. That would be ideal client or key source of collaboration. And so a lot of people are messaging me saying they've got immense value from just connecting with the people in the group and organizing those collaborations. I thought I'd pass it on to you in your experience. What is some really, really cool ways, whether it be through in person, through technology, through social media, where we can start to just get outside our comfort zone and meet new people and start to get into the social circles of those that we want to be involved in?
Yeah, so that's a really great question, because that's probably the most common question that I get, that people in varying degrees are comfortable with how they could communicate with somebody, but a lot of them face this hurdle of how do I gain access to these individuals. And there was a few, excuse me, there are a few areas that I worked on that helped me get to where I am. So number one, you should get a mentor. Okay, a mentor. And in your selection of a mentor, one of your criteria should be that they are well networked. That should just be one of the criterion, that they should be well networked, and do your research in doing that. So just because the individual has the skills and abilities that will help you grow, they can be a mentor of one sort, but you should look for a mentor who has the ability to introduce you into larger circles. And to be honest with you, Anthony Gaddy from Green Ant was one of those individuals. Now, I learned this lesson in retrospect because I didn't know how well networked it is, though I could have guessed because he was emceeing the Melbourne United basketball breakfast that had 300 people in the room. But, excuse me. So Andrea, I think it's Andrea Dayes, asked, do you have any tips on how to approach someone to be a mentor? Yes, I do. Yes, I do. And most people are not going to like this answer, right? On the simple side, yes, there are mentor matching programs that you can search online. That's one of them, okay? But I know that you're not really asking me on that level. The other way is that you need to go to high-level networking and events, and you need to have the guts to go up and speak to that person and ask them for what you want directly. that is it. Yes, you have to ask. Tim hit on the nail on the head. Now, here's the key distinction here, though. Just asking outright, just being asked by a stranger outright to engage in such a deep and close relationship is not going to work, right? That's where most people fail. This goes back to the beginning of our conversation is, are you living a life that's worth a story? Because when I approached Anthony, never met him before, saw him up on the stage emceeing at the Melbourne United breakfast, and I heard him speak about his values around family and wanting to build a business for good, and that's where we connected, and I wanted to be his mentor. I actually learned and practiced how to articulate my story. I actually thought about it, and this was going to be one of my key takeaways at the end of the webinar, is that people actually got to put effort into developing their story. Actually put pen to paper, fingers to keyboard, and think about, how do I share my story in the way that is the most encapsulating and uses the fewest amount of words, but have the same impact. That's the goal of actually working on your story, right? So that I did that, I went up to Anthony and introduced myself, and I was able to give him the cliff notes of my journey. And the journey really does, if you think about the signs of attention, has to have moments of tension as well as intrigue, right? So you want to be able to share a part of your story where it's difficult. You don't want to just share that it's been all roses. So I shared my journey, and I used a 3-prong attack, right? I really thought about what are parts of my story should I share that will really connect with this person. And it was like the stuff that I went through in order to get to where I am, what I'm doing right now that involves something that most people find difficult, which is speaking. And then thirdly, my contribution to the greater good. So where I had challenges, where I'm creating solutions, and what's my contribution to the greater good. And when I shared, as Elizabeth said, the good, the bad, the ugly, and the great, which is my contribution to the greater good, the person was able to create, and this is key here, the frame of reference of which to view me. We've talked about these words very quite a lot in this talk. You are always setting the frame of reference on which the person is perceiving you. So as I approach someone to ask them for mentorship, I give them a sense of who I am, and then I just ask the question. And yes, you will be rejected. You will be. Some people are just not able to be your mentor right now, and it might not have anything to do with you. In fact, most of the time, it doesn't, right? Because they don't know you. They're not going to reject you purely because they don't like you. It's all their own stuff. But you need to keep putting yourself out there and ask. And if you don't ask, you'll never receive. That really is the key thing there. But go to the right networking meetings and conventions and events that have those people that you want to meet and have that high caliber. Get an actual mentor who'll introduce you to other people in the network who are also of high caliber. And the third one, and this one's an easy one, is we all have clients here. Go and speak to your clients and get them to introduce you to their network. So many people do not do that with their clients, nor do they bring their clients together to create a little mini community hub that they can create value from. So if you've got client A who solves this problem and client B who also solves the same problem for the same target market, they both share the same target market, but they don't compete, you should bring them together and facilitate a lunch. And by creating value, as Tyson always shares, how do we generate value for our clients and for the people around us? Then you'll create more opportunities to access higher level networks, to ask for mentorship. Those are the three key areas that I played upon. And that's how I managed to get there. Now, the next part of it is how do you nurture and continue building when you get access to that particular group? And again, my answer does not change in any way, shape, or form. Is remove them from that context of they're up there and you're here, and putting your shit onto them and start meeting them on a human level. Because the more that you can share about your humanity and you live a life that's worth actually telling, that's when you'll connect with them. And then the final point that I have on this is, so personally, I've encountered the hurdle of giving too much to people, right? I don't know about you, Tyson, where there have been times where I've given so much to people, they've abused my generosity, and I've burnt myself out. Yeah. So then what happened is that I realized that it's not actually about the giving, because the first thing was like, oh, you got to hold back. You got to stop giving so much to people. That's a scarcity mentality that I don't enjoy and I don't think is true. What it is that you got to think about, okay, who should I give to? And if their journey and their values on every layer resonates with me, then I should be happy with putting aside energy and time within my life to help them build their dream, even if I don't get paid. Now, a lot of people disagree with that they say that you should get paid for everything, right? For every bit of energy and hour that you put in. I don't believe that's true. I believe that there is value adds that are always there that can be very beneficial to you, that is not monetary, but what it requires is some discerning thought. So maybe it's like, okay, this person has a journey and is building a business. So let's take Johan, for example. So those of you who may or may not know Johan Noguera of Business Authorities, I didn't know Johan initially. I actually knew Titch. And Johan shared with me a story of why he was building Business Authorities. And he said that he wanted to build Business Authorities because he wanted to create a platform where people always felt safe, nurtured, and could find help in building their business, right? So I believed in that journey. And then Johan asked me one day to be like, hey, can you MC our very first February event, the multi-day event? And I said yes. And when I told people that I was going to do it, the first question that they asked me was, how much are you charging them? Are you charging them any money? And I said, no. And they're like, why would you do that? Like, your skills are amazing. People can get $3,000 to $4,000 to $5,000 for MCing. How come you're not charging him? Are you doing every day? I'm like, yeah, I'm doing all 2 days as well. And they were baffled, right? But when I took a step back and, number one, knew that I know, liked, and trusted Johan and all that other stuff, right? I saw that this was a person who operates, and this is so key, my friends, please key into what I'm about to say next. This is a person who has so much influence and connections and everything, right? He operates from a place of such abundance that he gives everything to everyone. Like Tyson, you've seen it yourself, right? He gives everything, whether it be IP, time, he'll call you on the phone at night and everything, right? And I'm like, how can someone like him do it when he has so much to lose, so much to people to abuse his power? And you know what he said to me? And I'll take this forever, take this away with me forever. I said to him, I go, how do you not get jaded? How do you not become super reserved like some people that I've met in business? And he says to me, he goes, Eric, I give so much that I give abundantly and I don't care. But when someone crosses me, I just stop giving to them. And I think to myself, and here's the key here, man, imagine what you could have gotten from me. You don't know how much you've lost. And that attitude, that switch of being able to remain completely abundant is how you maintain really great relationships. So that when you meet people and you can actually be like, man, this person is giving so much to me. What happens if I give so much to them? And if you can make a judgment call that, wow, there is so much that can be created from our collaboration together, these are people that are worth investing in. And that's how you grow your network. Because then as I met Johan, he introduced me to all these other like 5, 6, 7 different people. And then all of a sudden I'm like, oh shit, I know 7 people who turn over revenues of like $50, $100 million a year. And all I did was be myself, live a life that was worth telling a story, be completely abundant in my mindset, and actually be discerning. And that's where that whole calibration factor comes in.
That's powerful.
That's the main thing.
And that's a key. A lot of people are reserving a lot of their IP or, just their time, energy, effort. And it is true. A lot of people can abuse that. But I think one of the most powerful things for me that I've done once I started resolving all these internal conflicts, connecting more with my heart, being more centered and more aware of myself, is you can pick up on that energy in a heartbeat when someone is giving abundantly, or like you said at the start of the call, when someone wants something from you, you can see straight through it. And that's what's been really cool. So for example, Eric's on this call, I'm not paying him. I'm not paying him. He's on here to give freely, to share, because he's seen this community, he's seen what I'm all about, and he just wants to give. And that's why I highly encourage that everyone on here, like he's not selling anything. Everyone on here, where they give back and where they start to, really, really, come from a place of abundance is when you all add him to your network and see who it is you can send his way. Right, that's how Eric's, not only going to give a lot of free value and a lot of experience from his journey, but this is also where he can start to get to know you guys, and you can start to build a relationship long term.
And Tyson, I want to cut in right here because I don't want to forget this point because it matches really well with what you're saying right now, right? I want to make it very clear, everybody, that we all give abundantly and we should give abundantly. And this is the context of which, Tyson has created this community. And I am definitely a supporter of that. What I want to make sure is addressed is after you create that relationship, when you want to actually talk about business, when you want to create a joint venture and a collaboration, this relationship that you've built and this calibration and discernment you've applied to the context of how you give and where you give. So me not charging Tyson for being on this call and all that, that sets up the ability to freely and openly be able to ask, hey, let's do some business together. Let's work out how we can actually put a deal together where we win as a pair and our clients win and the greater good wins. And it's actually this setting up that creates the best type of possibilities for joint ventures and business growth. Whereas some of the other types of thinking is where I'm trying to build a relationship with you at the same time, but underpinning it all, I have a desire to sell to you, or I know that you know that person that I really want to get close to. So as I'm trying to listen to your story, I'm not really listening because I'm trying to think of where can I cut into, put in my application or my request for you to introduce me to that person, etc., etc. And I'm sure people have experienced it, but if they haven't, I know that I have playing this game. And when you're in that, that's where the confusion happens, and that's where the and ahs come out. Because it's so incongruent that your brain is constantly trying to tick over to find the right things to say. But people don't realize that when everything is actually on point, the conversation becomes so easy, so free flowing, and the possibility for opportunity just presents itself.
Wow.
Sorry to cut you off, man, but I thought that was like a really good moment.
That's awesome. And what we can do is, while we still have 23 people on the call, is, Eric, would you be able to put a link to your Facebook profile and put it in the chat here? That would be easy for people just to add you to their network, and then you can reach out, and people can really just start asking you how they can help. Eric is in transition at the moment. It's really exciting that he's starting on a really completely new journey, but he's got many passions in terms of mental health. He loves being a mental health advocate and helping people in that realm. Me too. I'm definitely on the platform of helping people, especially business owners, with the mindset piece. It's been really, really a big message of me, and especially in the group, that I love helping people. I figured out, after coaching over hundreds of business owners in the last couple of years, I found out a lot of them want to achieve success because they want to fill a void within themselves at some level. They want to achieve at some level because they want to feel like they're enough. And they're doing that in the avenue of trying to achieve. I'm looking to flip that on its head and have people feel so abundant, so loved, so fulfilled internally, that they use the avenue of business to spread that, rather than trying to achieve success in order to feel something internally, in order to feel enough or feel worthy. So I'm looking to flip that on its head. And like you said, because we're giving freely, everyone in the group knows I'm going to be next week doing some what I call free group coaching, and that's getting on calls like this and coaching people for free, because that's what I feel at the moment is aligned with me, and it's lifting me. And I know that you're a big advocate for mental health. So if anyone has that type of passion, has that type of calling, Eric's going to be an immense person to add to your network as well, because he's going to be doing some really, really cool stuff in that domain. Do you want to talk a little bit about that, and your vision and why it's so compelling to you? And then we can start to finish up. Did you grab your link for your Facebook?
Yeah, so I'm just having some trouble because I'm using a different laptop where my Facebook is not logged into.
Hey man, I'll do it for you.
If you got my profile, that'd be great, man. That'd be really good. So yeah, with my journey right now, like I said, I recently left my position at Green Ant, partnership in Green Ant, to go and chase and build my own dreams. And part of that journey to that decision was the last 2 to 3 months has been a very difficult time for me. I've always been an individual with extreme high levels of internal or intrinsic resilience. And I've walked the personal development journey since I was 22 and ramped it up when I became a dad at 26, quite young in contemporary terms. But one thing that the ego always does is knock you down a couple of pegs and remind you to move out of your own arrogance to think that you already know it all. But the last couple of months has been this questioning of my own personal identity. And I went to some places that were quite dark for me, the darkest that I've ever been, as anyone who's into archetypes or Joseph Campbell and Carl Jung, into the belly of the beast was where I was at. And things got challenging to the point where, I woke up on a significant day, such as, Are You Okay Day in September. And I looked myself in the mirror, and instead of dismissing it like I normally do, I didn't recognize the reflection that stared back at me. And really thinking about what it is that I was missing in my life and why I couldn't get through all these different processes or these different challenges that were presented to me was very confusing. And eventually I did make it out of it. I did make it out of that dark place. And where I am at now is I've been exploring different opportunities to take my life in a different direction. One opportunity is to do with working with a really great team. One of those individuals is actually on the call right now, Gilbert, and we are looking to build up a company from scratch. And that's something that that's something that I always wanted to do. That's one side of it. But the other side that is actually something that I want to share more is I actually wanted to delve into my creative outlet again. And my creative outlet has always been to do around speaking. However, I don't necessarily want to, I guess, compete in the speaking space. But what I want to do is I want to create personal and professional development opportunities through experiences and using the vehicle of speaking as an anchor point on how to represent that growth. So I want to do things like restart my program and evolve it, where I take people out, say, on the soapbox and actually put them through this journey that I've thought through very carefully of how they should go on this particular challenge, to really bring them along that journey to help them achieve different amounts of growth, and then teach them skills on how to better speak and articulate themselves to really bind that growth into this particular vehicle, which I think will have tremendous positive benefits for not only their business, but their personal life. The ability, Tyson, I can't stress enough, the ability to articulate yourself well is just so fundamentally important. The thing that separates us as human beings from the rest of the species on this planet is our ability to speak. And when you speak, you have the ability to make dreams into reality. You can make thought and make it reality because you are able to articulate it. Because when you articulate it, you can form a plan. And when you can form a plan and a vision, you can actually build. And when you can build, you can actually make it tangible, right? And I find that so many people just don't invest the time in their speaking, or they do what I did for a lot of the previous few years, where I stopped learning because I thought I had learnt it all, right? And I kept myself in what I call the danger zone, where you get really good at the techniques of speaking, but you start to lose touch with the authentic aspects, so that when you do speak, people can tell that you're falling into the archetype of whatever you're doing, right? The archetype of the inspirational speaker, the archetype of the MC, and everyone just loses that connection to the reality of it all.
Wow.
So yeah, that's my journey right now.
Awesome, man, inspiring. And so what I've done as the end of every call, guys, is I've posted in the group a post around what your biggest takeaway was for this. One of the biggest things is for Eric to not only be able to see who's on the call and connect with you guys, but also so you can all connect with everyone else who's on this call. So you want to get on and build relationships with people who are actively in this group, who are actively jumping on calls, who are actively building their networks and learning more about business and how they can grow. So one thing I love doing is putting a post in the group, which I've just posted, around this mastermind, and this is what it looks like. And so basically what happens is that you can let us know what your biggest takeaway was, which is really, really important for us. But then also, so you can all see who was on this call, and you can start engaging with each other, starting to see how you can build your networks together and who you can send each other's way, and how you might be able to form your own collaborations. So that's something that's really, really powerful. Man, this has been super good. I've just got all these notes of things that I've just awesome takeaways. This has been super powerful. Eric, I want to thank you for your time. Thank you so much for your insights and sharing your journey. This has been really cool. For everyone who wants to continue with these sort of calls, I'll be doing them every 2 weeks. So the first and third Tuesday of every month, and which is a Monday for those in North America. And starting next week, I'll be doing the free group coaching as well, which is similar to this. There's really no pitch. There's nothing in terms of an upsell. It's a calling to me, so I'm going to be giving free insights and value, and seeing where it takes me and seeing where it takes us as a group. And more than happy to have people on there if you want to overcome all those fears, doubts, and frustrations of things like networking and building a business. Eric, is there anything else you want to finish on? First of all, who is it that we can send your way that would be immensely beneficial either as a collaboration or as a connection you'd like to make, so that we know who in our networks we can send to you?
So for me, I'm looking for collaborators who, number one, do have an experiential methodology in their personal growth or personal coaching service. So, because I want to explore other avenues that if I was to take someone up on a program, I have future clients as I'm looking to go down this creative journey of building that business. I want to not only give them my stuff, but I want to go and explore other people's things that will fit really well with my journey. So an example of that is those of you who know Daniel Burgess from the Phoenix Experience. I find that his sunrise hike up to the top of the mountain at the Cathedral Ranges, and then having the conversation at the top of the mountain, is very in tune with what I'm doing with speaking, because that journey is a mini hero's journey. And then up at the top, trying to get them to articulate themselves, I found that I had a lot of things that could have been very helpful to combine as an experience. So if I was to take clients on board, I don't want them to just be sitting in the workshop room learning the techniques of speaking, which I will do, but I want to take them on experiences where I can collaborate with people and combine what they do to help people find a truth and an authentic version of themselves and combine it together. So I'd like to meet more people like that.
What are the type of clients that you want to take on? Do you have that sort of formulated in your mind of the type of transformations that you wanted to take them on?
Yeah, so people who want to build up, a personal brand through speaking is probably one of the easiest ones. So whether they be CEOs or business owners who want to go down that particular track, that's really people that I want to meet. And I also want to meet a couple of professionals. So these people are not business owners, but they're high-level executives that need to represent their company or their business in conventions and all that. I find that those people are the ones who delved into the business world and become very successful, but have yet to be introduced to our amazing world, right? And I think that the world will be a better place if more people engaged in personal growth and development. So I definitely want to meet more of those type of clients, because I think that together we can do some amazing things.
Beautiful.
Now, I just had a question, Tyson. I have a few questions here. What's the best way for me to be able to answer these questions? I don't even know. Can I even go live in the group, for example?
Yeah, totally. Totally. You can go live in the group. You can ask and answer questions on the post, for example. You can do whatever you like. I mean, with the world of Facebook, you can post and communicate in so many different ways. And that's similar for all you guys. If you want to share the values of connection, of contribution and collaboration, feel free to add a post, do a live, let people know what it is you do, how it is you do it, how you're looking to collaborate. Eric, man, feel free to just add however you like.
Yeah, so for those people who are on the call, Dan, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go live in the Connect, Contribute and Collaborate group right after this call. I'm just going to go live on it, and of course, it'll be recorded so you can review it even if you miss it. And I'm going to answer some of these questions that have been put up, especially about book recommendations. And I've got 2 Q&A questions regarding simplifying the technical know-how so that other people understand your message. And do you find that judgment or people or a situation is something that holds people back? And at the same time, that judgment being that trigger that helps you understand what to work on, delete or improve. So I'm going to hop onto the live and I'm going to answer those questions specifically.
I'll be there.
Okay, awesome. If you're going to be there, we can just keep it in this call if you want. Would that, if everyone is already here, what do you think, Tyson? Or should I keep it on a different medium so people can actually answer?
Let's finish this up, because then it'll be a recording for the YouTube channel.
Okay. Cool.
And then then you can just go live in the group, and we can start a communication channel there and start your own chat.
Awesome.
Man, thanks everyone for joining. This has been really, really beneficial, not only for me, but I'm sure you guys can continue the chat in the group. And this is something I'm super passionate about, building your network, right? It's super, super powerful. And it's so easy to do once you know the ins and outs of how to do it. And once you understand internally your true value. So Gilbert's looking for a link to the group. I'll put it in I'll just send it to you, Eric, and then you can share it with your network, whoever wants to join.
Yeah.
And we can do it from there. But thanks so much, guys. It's been awesome. And I'll see you next time in 2 weeks or next week on the free group coaching. That's going to be powerful as well. But we'll see you in the group, man.
Thank you so much, man. You're doing an amazing thing. Thank you, everybody, for being on. I'll see you soon.
So, Eric, take care, buddy.
Bye-bye.